Ooh, new sponsor alert. Hey, it's Jen. Listen, I am obsessed with my Canopy humidifier. I've been using a humidifier in my office and while I sleep. Ever since I wrote a story, it was way back when I was a baby beauty editor. I wrote about the benefits of humid air on skin and how dry air actually decreases skin elasticity. We want elastic skin, people. But I get that humidifiers are kind of a drag. The old ones were clunky and they started to smell after a while. Not my Canopy. Canopy humidifier is a completely reimagined humidifier. First, there's no visible mist. This is a very good thing because mist from traditional humidifiers can be unhealthy. It can carry particulate matter and bacteria. Canopy humidifier also has an antimicrobial filter that catches minerals, bacteria, and other stuff in your water that could irritate your skin. You'll also never have to worry about mold. Canopy utilizes a unique technology that keeps the humidifier running until there's no water left inside the unit, and you can clean it right in the dishwasher. Best of all, they do subscriptions on the filters, so you can make sure you replace those regularly. Replace the filter, people. It's important. If all that weren't fun enough, Canopy humidifiers have built-in aroma diffusers that you can use to scent your air while you moisturize it. Go to getcanopy.co to save $25 on your Canopy humidifier purchase today with Canopy's filter subscription. Even better, use code FATMASCARA, all one word, FATMASCARA, at checkout to save an additional 10% off your Canopy purchase. That's getcanopy.co, getcanopy, canopy.co, and use code FATMASCARA for an additional 10% off. Your skin will thank you.
Hey everyone, we talk a lot about dark spots and pigmentation on Fat Mascara, and if you have dark spots, it can often feel like a vicious cycle. As soon as one fades, another one pops up. Break the cycle with Clinique Even Better Clinical Dark Spot Interrupter. This powerful serum works on melanin-rich to fair skin and helps visibly correct dark spots, such as acne marks, while protecting from future discoloration.
Jess, I'm going to tell you why I needed and have been using this serum. I just realized I have spots only on the right side of my face. I thought it was because I'm a passenger in a car. It is not. Look at me right now. I record this podcast with my face to the window, only on the right side. And for the last 2 years, I've been growing some lovely dark spots that Clinique is helping me with. So this serum is great. It has a proprietary brightening molecule and vitamin C for a more even-looking skin tone. It even helps with acne marks, like the ghosts of pimples past. Plus, it improves the look of existing dark spots, including age spots, while interrupting the look of future dark spots too. And as someone who has redness as an issue, it's nice to know that in just 2.5 hours, this serum helps quell redness from irritation that can trigger new visible spots and worsen existing spots. When have you ever tried skincare that does something in 2.5 hours? I love that.
That's great. So, get Even Better Clinical Dark Spot Interrupter this holiday season when you go to Clinique.com. Hey everyone, it's Fat Mascara. I'm Jess.
Hi, Jess. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen.
So, you talked to Azzi.
Let's get right into it. That's right. It's Friday. We've got an interview for you. How much do you love a fragrance chat?
I'm so excited for this. She's really talented.
When I tell you, I'm not finished. When I tell you, like, I think this woman has like a weird sixth sense. I feel like she's like a white witch of perfume. I get every time I talk to her, I feel like this is why she's a good perfumer, because she just reads the room and the people. She's got a little magic about her. She's a British perfume designer. Who remembers Agent Provocateur, the fragrance? Jess is
hands
raising
up.
her
My
hand.
hands up.
She created that one. That was like one of her first blockbusters. She now has her own company, A Perfumer Story. I got connected with her. I actually should call this out. I just did a story for the December issue of Allure about how actors use fragrance to help them get into character. So she was one of my sources because she makes bespoke fragrances for actors for particular projects. And when I chatted with her for that story, I was like, you need to come on the podcast. The fam is going to love you. So that's what this is. This is my conversation with Azzi. So it's just me and her. Jess is there vicariously, right, Jess?
Vicariously, in spirit.
in spirit, in fragrance spirit. So I thought it was also timely. I don't know, there's something about fragrance that makes me feel very festive. And here we are getting into festive season. So I hope you all enjoy it. Azzi, hi. Welcome to Fat Mascara.
Hey, Jen. Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you again. I'm well, thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me on the show. Very excited.
Me too. So I know we've chatted before, but I want to bring my listeners up to speed a little bit about who you are and what you do. Let's start back and talk about when you first realized you wanted to be a perfumer. Do you remember when that was? How did you figure that out?
You know, it wasn't an industry or a profession that I'd even heard of when I was younger. And it's something that was discovered. And the interesting thing is when I look back on it, I was always, making perfumes like all children probably were, collecting rose petals and making perfumes, always collecting my mum's lipstick containers when she'd finished with them, her lipstick cases and her powder cases, because I love the smells of the 1970s old waxy lipstick notes. And I was discovered actually when I was about my early 20s. I was actually sort of looking for perfume because I had invented a product do you remember the old potpourri, the fragrance potpourri back in the day, in the late 80s, where you would scent your houses? So I came up with an idea of, which was the next thing that came after that, was scented rocks. So I needed to buy perfume from somewhere. So in terms of the little knowledge that I had of perfume, I just looked at the back of a perfume bottle and it says made in Paris. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go to Paris and see where perfume comes from. And so it was very kind of something that was totally undiscovered. And then a perfume house in the UK contacted me because they'd read an article in Cosmopolitan about me creating these new scented rocks and how brilliant they were and interesting. So I went to go visit them, and the CEO was around the building, and he said, I think I reminded him of his late brother who was a big perfumer, and he said, we'd love to get your nose tested. Have you ever had your nose tested? And I thought, well, no. And the thought of doing a test was frightening. And he said, well, it won't take you, it's an hour and a half long. And I thought, oh my God, that sounds intensive. So I did this perfume test, and they just said, it's one of the best results we've ever had. You got a great nose, would you ever consider joining the perfume industry? So that's kind of really where it started. And I have to say, when I did join the industry, it wasn't quite as I had imagined. It was a lot of white coats, and everything was quite marketing led or technically led, as opposed to perfumery creatively led in terms of the vision that I had. So I think I was a bit of a rebel in the industry, sort of kind of saying, well, what about doing it this way? Or, just kind of opening up those creative doors and breaking down some of the boundaries that existed in the industry. So not to necessarily follow the trends, but to create the trends.
Yeah, let's back up. Two big things though here. Can I back up here?
Yeah, of course.
You invented scented rocks. Like it was wood shavings. I remember it was these horrible little, it looked like your hamster's bedding.
Exactly.
Right? And it was, and I know the scented rocks you're talking about. They're like a porous, and it was much more chic. You were one of the first to do that?
Exactly. They came from south of Italy. It's from volcanic rocks, and they've got a great porosity. Yeah. Exactly. And it holds the perfume very, very well, and it permeates the scent in room, better than the wood shaving chips did. And they were much more sophisticated.
Yeah. Okay, you are a rebel.
So it was fun, and then
changing things up.
Exactly. And then when I launched my first perfume, it kind of came from working in the behind the scenes in the industry, the 90s, where everything looked the same, smelt the same. And I think I was just getting a bit bored, where I'm not going to mention any names as such, but where certain perfumes wanted to say, well, we want it to smell like this, look like this. Everything looked and smelt the same. And I thought, no, we've got to lead the market. We can't, you've got to kind of, fragrance smell has to match your personality and style. Every brand is different. Every person is different. So when my first perfume I created was Agent Provocateur in 2000, 22 years ago, I think now.
Yeah.
And it was most perfumes are in glass bottles. And I always wanted my first perfume to be in a porcelain bottle. So it was very hard and tricky to do, but it went straight to number one and it was very successful. But the scent itself it totally reflected the brand, which is sexy, provocative, and confident. And the trends at the time were very light and watery. I think if you remember the 90s of CK1 and Issey Miyake, etc., the ozonic type notes. And out pops this very expensive, womanly, powerful scent, which was Agent Provocateur. It was really very, very popular. I think people just embraced the fact that there was a change, a different direction in the industry finally.
Yeah. I want to talk about some more of the scents you've created and how you're a leader there. But backing up to this fragrance evaluation quiz, I feel like I've talked to some perfumers who say to be a perfumer, you don't necessarily have to be a better smeller, just like have a really good memory. But the quiz, the evaluation that you did, was that to see if you could be an evaluator or perfume creator? Like what test were they giving you?
They were quite vigorous tests, actually. You have to test your nose. So in terms of, one is to identify different notes. So you have different family of notes like green and animalic or woody or musk or ambery, floral, fresh, herbs, citrus, etc. So one is to identify the different categories and family of fragrance, and then you have to then dissect that into the different accords and the notes. So,
and you already could do this without formal training.
Well, it was a lot of it at the beginning was it was a test. They just said, just go with your instincts. So, I mean, I had no preconceptions of what I was going into, but I just thought, well, okay, well, that smells green to me, or that was citrus, fruity, or whatever it was. And then they would also sort of ask you to look at the different strengths. Which one would it be? A, B, or C would be the strongest. Which note would you find more stronger and lighter, etc. So it gives you an idea of the longevity of an ingredient and its notes. So when you're formulating a perfume, one is to kind of create the concept of the actual fragrance and the story that you're telling, but also you want the perfume to last, and it must be fine-tuned so you don't have like notes sticking out. So it kind of has this like nice velvety, smooth, fine fragrance that's then composed and created from the ingredients that you choose.
Right. And after you took this test and you realized, okay, they realized even you had talent, did you then have formal training where you went through perfumery school, or did you go down to Grasse? How did it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, I went to Paris quite frequently, actually, but you got trained by, in those days, you get trained by a perfumer, and it was more sort of to do with the actual house itself, internal learning, which is good because you kind of, you're in a way thrown into the deep end, but at the same time you're learning all about it. And also the technicalities in terms of the gas chromatography of when you're looking at identifying and creating different scents that smell similar to a natural note. The smell of, one of the first memories I've ever had is the smell of rain on earth. And when I was asked to create the smell of Britain, for when David Cameron was in power, I recreated the smell of rain as it hits the pavements, because it kind of rains here a lot.
Wait, who asked you to create the smell of Britain? This is crazy. This is a huge story. What was that project?
That was it was part of the Great Festival of Britain, which was Great Festival of Britain. I think it's called the Great Creativity. So it's basically identifying how many creatives come out of Britain, etc. So David Cameron was Prime Minister at the time, and he built an alliance of creatives in fashion, in film, and I was in fragrance and beauty, etc. And he asked a couple of perfumers from Britain. I was one. Jo Malone was another perfumer as well that was asked to create our ideas of the scent of Britain. I think she did the scent of rose, and I did the scent of rain as it hits earth, because and it was all about to build alliances with global entities in different countries. So the presentation, when I created the scent, we did the first drop was Istanbul. And I mean, people loved it because everyone sort of laughed a bit because they said, "Oh my God, they weren't expecting it to be rain on earth." But I think I totally identified with it, because whenever you speak to somebody in America or anyone, they say, "Oh, how's the weather there? Is it raining? Is it grey, wet?" And The usual.
Yeah.
And in fact, it is raining here as well, by the way, as I speak.
Well, what is that smell? How do you describe it to people? Like, what
Oh
is
my
that
God,
smell?
I can't wait to send you. I'm going to send you a vial, Jen. You're going to love it. In fact, I'm launching a candle soon.
Okay.
And I'll send you that when we have produced it. But it literally smells of exactly. So when you're burning the candle, it almost feels like it's quite humid. So you know the humidity that a rainstorm gives. So it's quite electrifying. There's something quite very passionate about the scent as well. But it is literally the identical smell of rain on pavements. It smells. It's got muddy notes in there. It's got green grass notes. It's fresh, but it's earthy at the same time. It's even got the note of when hot rain hits when cold rain hits the hot pavements. You know, the steam comes up a bit.
Yeah, I know it.
It's really
what a fun project.
Thank you. It was fun. I enjoyed doing that very, very much. And I think I particularly just loved everyone's reaction when they smell it. In fact, you must call me immediately when you smell it. You're going to love it.
Well, side note, I know you sent me your fragrance C from A Perfumer's Story. So I've given samples to a couple people. Everybody who smells that just laughs out loud first. And then they just because it brings up memories of like nights out in the club or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of reaction. Like, I kid you not, multiple people have just looked at me and laughed when they smelled it because they knew what it was. It's funny.
Yeah. And then have you seen the reaction it gets you after you wear it?
Yeah. It's addictive.
It is addictive, exactly. So the whole idea is not to take it, but to wear it.
Of course. So you got into, from working on Agent Provocateur and like a big brand marketing driven, you were doing retail fragrances. When did you start to shift your career into the world of personal creations like the ones we just talked about, but bespoke perfumery as well?
So bespoke perfumery started about 15 years ago, I think now. And originally it started with Kylie Minogue, actually, who had contacted me because she wore Agent Provocateur and she was a big fan. She wanted to meet the perfumer behind it. So I actually went to her house for dinner, which was lovely. And she's adorable, you know, I mean, beautiful, very hardworking, highly
Were you starstruck?
intelligent.
I don't know. You work with a lot of celebrities, but...
Yeah, you know, I kind of... I just had a baby, so I was a little bit panicked about leaving my 1-year-old at the same time. But she made you feel very comfortable. She had a glass of champagne in her hand. I'm thinking, oh my God, that's perfect. So we had a really good chat, and I ended up doing a bespoke scent for her, which she absolutely adores and loves. And she actually had it as part of her exhibition that she did at the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is a retrospective on Kylie. So that was really great fun. Mm-hmm. And then my first actress and actor that I worked with was Helena Bonham Carter. And that was when I started to work originally with getting them into roles in their film roles. And then the first actor was Johnny Depp. In fact, I worked with both of them on a film together, which was directed by Tim Burton, Dark Shadows. And I'd already created for Helena fragrances for when she played Enid Blyton and Bellatrix as Harry Potter. And for this particular role, she wasn't smelling great because it's got to be real, of course. It's just like, it's the same thing, you know, you have to look the part. So it depends on what era or what the concept, what the styling is. The scent has to also get you into the role, like method acting. So she was playing an alcoholic, chain-smoking psychiatrist based in the 1970s. And I said, okay, so what are you drinking? She said, a whiskey bourbon straight, practically in every scene. How much you smoke? Chain smoke. The whole time I've got a cigarette in my hand. And Helena doesn't drink whiskey and smoke cigarettes, so I literally gave her the smell of that, and she just said, "Oh my God, it's amazing." She said, "I'm on set at 6 a.m. and everyone's like thinking, what the hell?" I mean, they just thought that, you know, she really had taken this seriously.
She hit the bottle. She was up all night or hit the bottle. Well, but before we get into these movie roles, the one for Kylie was a personal fragrance that you made for her, right? Not having to do with her role.
Yes.
And then you started doing the movie.
So I started first with Helena doing the movies, but then I also did Helena's own personal bespoke fragrance as well, which is her own I mean, they get given lots of perfumes from brands, etc., but they want to smell individual. They want to have their own unique legacy of scent, which they can, have forever. And people say, "What are you wearing?" She gets so many comments. She texts me saying, the taxi driver just, "Oh my God, what are you wearing? That's amazing." And she'll say, "Oh, this is my own Helena scent." And Johnny Depp has his own.
What's the process like for that? Yeah. What did you do with Johnny and Helena and all of your other bespoke clients that might not be famous people? Like, you sit down and interview them? Is there a quiz? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's kind of like a fun therapy session, really. And you do get to know them and hang out with them, which is fun. Because, if you think about it, sort of everyone has two personalities. You have one that you portray to the outside world, that this is who I am and this is the way that I look, it's the way I have my hair, makeup, etc. And then you have your inner personality that you want to bring out to those that you get close to, family, loved ones, etc. But that doesn't come out necessarily straight away. So I kind of have to identify both of them together, because this is a fragrance, it's a scent that you're going to be wearing for a long time, and it's something that you have to feel really comfortable in your own skin. It's like second skin. So it's, in a way, I'm capturing their personality, their character and their style in a formulation. It's a bit like their DNA print, but through my nose. So it's their scent DNA.
Are they smelling anything? Like, because sometimes, there's these bespoke, sort of pseudo-bespoke perfumeries where they're like, you smell a bunch of accords and you figure out you're a watery floral, and they tweak it a little and you get a watery floral. Do you ever have them smell anything like that, or it's more based on personality?
I'm definitely not one of those standard. You get a completely different experience with me. It's serious as well, because they're spending money and they want to have the proper real deal. It's watery. It does. To be honest with you, it doesn't really interest me whether they like the smell of jasmine or rose. When you're making a perfume, it contains lots of different ingredients, and for example, if you just say you like rose, but rose is an ingredient that can be very pretty and floral and lovely. And then if you mix it with, say, oud and saffron and vetiver, it can suddenly become quite dark and dangerous and passionate. So I'm all about telling the unique story of personifying them into their scent bubble. And so when
regardless of what those notes might be.
Yeah, because when you smell it, you can't even identify sometimes the ingredients. That's the magic of my formulations. It's not about being identified in terms of, oh, it's a fresh fruity floral. I'm not doing a mass market perfume scent. It's something it's a bit like an artist painting something that is going to be unique and different, and you spend time in doing that as well. But also you're telling their story, and it's got to be something that they are happy with, and they're everyone's intelligent. They come to me because they know that I'm going to do that for them. They don't know what they want either. It's very subjective scent, and it's quite a tricky subject because it's not something that you can see or touch. It's an emotion, so it has to. Yeah. So I can feel it and see it. Helena calls me her white witch because she just says, you just know. I mean, it's hard to, when she introduces me to some of her friends, sometimes she just says, got to go to Azzi because she'll just get it right and know. And it's just something that I think I've always probably had inside me, something that I didn't even realize, that you have that kind of power of the nose. But the power of the nose is a powerful tool, believe me.
Azzi, do you think you're a bit psychic, maybe?
It's hard to say because I always wonder what psychic means sometimes. But I think a lot of people can be psychic when you're, I am very soulful and in touch with my subconscious, and I'm very interested in people. I love people. I love the way their brains work and the way you move. And I remember even when I first met with you, when we were doing the interview, I was fascinated by your style, the way that you moved, the way that you talked, the way you thought about things before you said things, and then sort of knowing maybe what the next thing was going to be that you were then going to say. But it's something that, it's a feeling that you get, and it's all about being interested in your subjects, and that's something that I think I've always been very interested in.
Have you tried finding tickets for any live event lately? It's impossible to keep up, and prices are crazy. That's why you have to check out Gold Star. Gold Star makes it easy to discover the best in live entertainment in your city with instant access to awesome events and special ticket deals. Concerts, live theater, comedy, dance, food fests, immersive experiences. You name it, Gold Star has access to special deals you won't find anywhere else with savings of 50% or more. Go to goldstar.com and use code DCPOD to save $10 on your first purchase. That's goldstar.com, code DCPOD to save $10.
Hey everyone, we talk a lot about dark spots and pigmentation on Fat Mascara, and if you have dark spots, it can often feel like a vicious cycle. As soon as one fades, another one pops up. Break the cycle with Clinique Even Better Clinical Dark Spot Interrupter. This powerful serum works on melanin-rich to fair skin and helps visibly correct dark spots, such as acne marks, while protecting from future discoloration.
Jess, I'm going to tell you why I needed and have been using this serum. I just realized I have spots only on the right side of my face. I thought it was because I'm a passenger in a car. It is not. Look at me right now. I record this podcast with my face to the window, only on the right side. And for the last 2 years, I've been growing some lovely dark spots that Clinique is helping me with. So this serum is great. It has a proprietary brightening molecule and vitamin C for a more even-looking skin tone. It even helps with acne marks, like the ghosts of pimples past. Plus, it improves the look of existing dark spots, including age spots, while interrupting the look of future dark spots too. And as someone who has redness as an issue, it's nice to know that in just 2.5 hours, this serum helps quell redness from irritation that can trigger new visible spots and worsen existing spots. When have you ever tried skincare that does something in 2.5 hours? I love that.
That's great. So, get Even Better Clinical Dark Spot Interrupter this holiday season when you go to Clinique.com. Hey everyone, hair loss has been in the news lately a lot. I don't need to tell you, but at Fat Mascara, we're talking about it all the time. We've got derms talking about it. We've got listeners writing in. But what if I told you that there was a solution that helps 86% of women with hair loss? Nutrafol.
That's right. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months of using Nutrafol. This is something thousands of women have used to take back control of their hair. There are 2 targeted formulas of Nutrafol, and they are clinically shown. Let's just pause and talk about clinically shown. That means there is science behind them. They are clinically shown to improve hair growth and thickness with less shedding through all stages of life. So hair growth takes time, as you know, that's right, but you will see in 3 to 6 months, thicker, stronger, faster growing hair if you use Nutrafol supplements.
Visit Nutrafol.com and take their hair wellness quiz for personalized product recommendations that are unique to your hair's needs. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code FATMASCARA to save $15 off your first month subscription. And this is their best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, get free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, using the promo code FATMASCARA.
Yeah, if you're really empathetic, sometimes that can read to other people as a little bit psychic. I get it. Do people surprise you, though? Have you ever gotten it wrong? Like you think they're one thing, you make them a scent, and it's totally off base?
Yeah, there was Tom Hardy, actually. I met with Tom, and I thought he was definitely Mr. Vetiver, which is one of my collections, which Jude Law wears. Jude is definitely Mr. Vetiver, it's true, and he's always been Mr. Vetiver. He buys it all the time. But Tom Hardy, he's alpha male. I mean, he ticked all the right boxes. It's James Bond. And I'm sure he was up for that role as well. Yeah. So it wasn't that I was completely off. And I gave it to him. He goes, he said, I love it. It's great. He said, but the one I want is I just want the one that you wear. I like your smell. So, which is sequoia wood. I wear sequoia wood.
Uh-huh.
Did you get a bottle of sequoia wood? I can't remember.
I do. I love it. Just so listeners know, you sent me C, which we talked about briefly before, and sequoia wood, both of which are very different, yet both so me. Sequoia wood, I was describing, I actually talked about on the podcast, is like, it had this rummy quality for me, like almost like a cognac-y kind of wood. Like it was much... I kept saying maroon bubble, and my co-host was like, what does maroon bubble mean? I was like, I can't describe it. It's a maroon bubble. How do you describe that scent?
Well, you're right, actually, in a way. I mean, this is where I knew that you're good with scents and you've got a good nose, because sequoia wood is the most sensual of woods. It's juicy wood. Sandalwood is an oily wood. Cedarwood is a dry wood. Guaiac wood is that polished wood. Now, sequoia wood, which is the red trees that you get in Colorado and California, where the wood it's deep and you just keep smelling it, and there's a juiciness to it. So that's probably why you're getting that kind of sexy undertones of, you could say, cognac, or some people even say a little bit kind of chocolatey, but not. I mean, for me, it's like it is that redwood. It's like a passionate wood note that comes through that just kind of gives it, without being pretty. I don't like pretty floral scents for me. I like to be sexy, but I want to be kind of in a very mysterious manner. And sequoia wood gives you that, which I think that's your everyday scent.
And what about Tom Hardy? Is that his everyday scent?
Yeah, so he loves sequoia wood. So that was the only one that I have ever probably got it wrong. I mean, I remember when I worked with Cindy Crawford, this was a hard one.
Azzi, I have to tell you a story. Quick story. I know there's a delay with our recording, so sorry if I interrupted you. So the day after I got married or engaged, my husband had to go to England to interview Tom Hardy. I kid you not. This happened.
Yeah.
And Tom Hardy's like, wait, you just got engaged to your fiance. Now you're here interviewing me. Let me make her a video. This is so weird. I don't have a video from any celebrity in the world except Tom Hardy sends me this video saying, congrats on getting engaged to, Eric. I'm here with him. I'll send him back to you in 2 days. It's just this random video of Tom Hardy. Here you are talking about passion and love. It was the most passionate week of my life. I just got engaged. And somehow Tom Hardy is in that story for me. And then here it's weirdly connected with this fragrance in you. I'm telling you, woman, there's a psychic note in you, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah, we'll be connected with so many more, I'm sure. Exactly. There'll be more that will come out of this whole conversation.
I know, but it's just funny.
I love that. It's so sweet of him as well.
Yeah, well, to get us back on track. Yeah, it was great. It's a really funny video. I will not make it public because I don't want to embarrass him. But anyway, when you said people they do surprise you. He surprised you. You didn't get it right on the first try. But when you do the movie projects, it's a little bit different, right? It's not just about getting their personality. It's about getting the character, right?
Yes, exactly. And, I've worked with Jude Law in many films as well. When I worked with him on The Pope, when he did Arthur with the Guy Ritchie film, and his characters have all been quite different. And I've just recently done a film with him that's releasing next year, which was a tough one because it's completely different to all of his films. But, he's also very interested. I mean, actors are highly intelligent anyway. They know their history, they research. So they really can so when we have our sessions together, we really get involved in telling that story through smell. And I'll say to him, when you're on set, you're going to want to feel like this. The other actors, it's all about how it then portrays and reflects on the other actors and the director and everyone else. So there's lots of different facets that come into the equation. Mm-hmm. So they have their own bespoke scent. So you have the Jude Law scent that he wears. Well, he actually wears Mr. Vetiver, which is part of the collection, because he loves that. So he doesn't have his own bespoke scent as such because he loves that one. But he has all the bespokes that we do for his film roles, and they are and they vary depending on what the character is, of course, that he plays. And as he's got older, they've got tougher, I have to say.
Yeah. They've gotten tougher? Is that what you said?
Yeah, they've got tougher in terms of, I think, because as an actor, sometimes you want to have roles that are, quite hard to do, because you've obviously, you want to kind of create your own challenges, don't you, in life? So I think, they want to, they like having these different challenges. And And with Jude's one, where he'll be playing Henry VIII, I can't wait to watch that when that comes out. He didn't smell too good at all because, of course, it was, without going too much into detail, because you'd have to watch the film, but we'd have to have a podcast just before it comes out, and then I can, because that's a great story of what he smells
well,
of,
I think
actually.
Henry VIII is a familiar villain to a lot of people in history. We know how, he killed all his wives and had them sent to death. What?
Yeah,
does it
and he's
smell
quite
like
a
death?
repulsive character in a way, in terms of the way he looked, and he was big, and he had, and towards the end of his life, which is what the film's based on, he had gout and things like that. In those days, didn't smell great, and it's like smell of pus and death, and before it's happening, and sickness and illness. It was tough in those times because they didn't have all the tonics that we have nowadays.
Yeah. And that's a movie where you didn't just create it for one actor, which I know you do. The actors will come to you, but you create it for several actors in that movie, right?
Yeah, I actually worked with the director, Kerry Manouz, on this one. So I ended up doing about 17 different scents in all for the film, because I also did the set design scents as well, because it's the film is very emotional as well. It's very sort of, it's intense. And so you really want to kind of, smell and feel it as you're watching it. And also worked, Alicia Vikander plays Catherine in there. So, and I'd also worked with some of the other actors with their different roles, characters as well. But yeah, didn't have a long time to work on that, but it was a great project and exciting too.
Yeah, the set fragrance intrigues me. Was that like room pebbles from back in the 90s? Like what, or was it like you created an eau de toilette that they just sprayed around the set? What did it smell like? What was that about?
Yeah, I mean, there was, just different notes, if you can imagine, set in those times. It was stone cold floors and firewood burning because they didn't have central heating.
Okay.
So it's very much what they had to cope with and deal with in those times. And the smells that would come out, like wet hay or smoked wood and kind of cold dampness and etc. So disinfectant as well was something that was used quite a lot. So it was everything was made very, very real. Well, certainly I don't know if all the directors work like that, but he certainly is very, particular to make things very much as they are or as they were in this case.
What disinfectant would they use in the medieval times? And what did it smell like, do you think?
Well, a lot of the ingredients, even nowadays today, but pine obviously was a big disinfectant note. They had things like fennel, basil, thyme, rosemary was a big note for disinfectant, but also in terms of the fighting of viruses and sanitization. So that was like, they were the kind of the healing ingredients, eucalyptus, menthol, camphor, etc.
Right.
Those kind of medicated notes.
I get the vibe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I don't know if I told you the story, but then, we talk about bespokes and how challenging they can be. One of the biggest ones I had was when I worked on Cindy Crawford's bespoke scent, because she didn't wear perfume and didn't like perfume particularly. And it was an interesting project because it was her amazing husband, is Randy Gerber, wanted to create bespoke perfume for her for her birthday. So it was a surprise. But when I sort of then I said, well, what does she like? Does she normally wear, etc. And she said, well, she doesn't like perfume. That's why we come to you to help us, to get something that she likes. I was thinking, oh my God, right. So then I just wanted to know everything there was to know about, because it's also a surprise. I did everything with Randy, but they're very, very close. I mean, honestly and truly, it's a wonderful love story. But it was great because I had to find out how her life and her style and how she is sort of when she goes to parties or when she's cooking dinner at home or watching, taking the dogs for walks or, going in the park, etc. It's the rituals and learning about that. And I just created, so in the end I had two. I couldn't decide between the two. I liked them both. But there were just two formulas that I did. And they were like, is that it? Just two? I said, yeah. So I can't wait to decide which one it was. And and actually it was wonderful because she said, well, I want Randy to pick his favourite one when I'm outside of the room, and then I'll pick it, and we'll see if it's the same. And I was like, oh my God.
Mhm.
I didn't
Pressure.
know that. Pressure, exactly. And and it was amazing because they both exactly, I mean, they're so in sync anyway. They both immediately went to B, and it's definitely B, and that's her signature scent. She wears it all the time. She loves it, and I was just, I was so delighted. But it was one of those challenging and wonderful moments that we see the happiness and joy in their faces, because you literally have no idea.
Yeah. It's she came on our podcast, and when we asked her what she wore, she was like, oh, it's bespoke and Randy had it made for me and it's just perfect. And that was the story. It's so interesting to hear now the story behind what she told us.
Oh,
and
lovely.
How you nailed it with like a lot of challenges, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself being drawn to certain accords again and again? Like when you start a project, like, okay, I'm going to start with this accord that I love that like always seems to be a nice base, or is it perfectly unique for everyone?
It's really perfectly unique for everyone. Yeah, because I don't think I could I don't think I've ever even thought about it like that. Very interesting question.
Yeah. What about notes that you're drawn to right now? Like, I just feel like as the seasons change in different years, people get, into different things. What are you into right now?
Well, I mean, if you look at my the Perfume story collection, I must send you the whole like vials of it.
Yeah, wait, I should back up. Why you have a certain number of fragrances in a perfumer story, and some of them have been past projects that you made now available to regular people. But why did you decide to create a perfumer story?
I think everyone just said, you've created fragrances for different brands, fashion designers, Hollywood actors, artists, musicians, etc. When are you going to bring your own? We want to buy your perfumes. When can we actually commercially buy them ourselves? So, and everyone used to love my one that I used to wear, which is Sequoia Wood, my signature. So, which is one of the best sellers as well. And so I kind of thought, yeah, I had to do it. And actually, a lot of actor friends were encouraging me to do it, and they helped me a lot in the making of the Perfumer story. And I originally launched with Harvey Nichols here in the UK, and then we were in Harrods, and now we're I have a great partner with Liberty London, who are a brilliant match actually to us in terms of clientele and everyone. And they really, I've always had a love for Liberty as a store because it's so beautiful. It's got the heritage. But the reason why I wanted to create it, and a lot of journalists actually said, because they said your approach is so different to other perfumers and other brands, where a lot of perfumes are based on notes and fragrance families like floral, fresh, etc., citrus, etc. Whereas my perfumes are based on people and characters and style. And so I couldn't just launch one perfume. I launched 11 because I wanted to have a library for them to say, well, yes, I am sensual, creative and edgy. I'm Sequoia Wood. Or I am bohemian, fun-loving and caring. So I am Twisted Iris. Or I am alpha male, debonair, and charismatic. So I'm Mr. Vetiver. Or, Old Books is another great one.
Are those descriptions on the website?
They are. So, yes. So my fragrance family has been replaced by what is your character and style. And I've got that robot quiz that you can do. So it helps you decide which fragrance is your DNA match. So you could, which is a free quiz that you can just go onto the website and you answer the questions. And it's been, it's really hard to kind of create the AI robot because it took over a year to do it, because it has to map my brain and my nose and how I would think if I was in front of that person. So there was a lot of backwards and forwards, but it was worth it. And I get lots of letters and messages from people saying, "Oh my God, it's really got you got me completely right." So it's like a mini bespoke. So if you can't afford the big bespoke, you could buy something from the collection, which is a lot more accessible as well for everybody.
Yeah, and then back to the question I was asking: what you're drawn to right now? You referenced a perfumer story, but what were you going to say? What are you in the mood for this season?
Yes, I mean, there's certain notes that I do love. I love warm kind of, I love the base notes, things like frankincense and myrrh and resins and things that are going to last on skin, certain musks as well. I think essential notes are always something that's wonderful to me, because also with the base notes they can change the heart and the top of a fragrance quite dramatically as well. The way that they're mixed, they can warm something up, they can make something stronger, they can make something more enriched, they can make something much more passionate and sexier as well. So it really kind of, I start with what character am I going to create today? And I sort of then choose all my different ingredients, so like the main characters of them, and then all the supporting ingredients, the supporting characters, to then make that little story film, which becomes one of the formulations of a perfume.
Have you ever written a book or a movie script?
That is a very good question as well, because I think I've always thought about, I always thought about it when I first read Perfume by Patrick Suskind. I love that book. And the film was, if you'd read the book and then watched the film, it wasn't great, but the book is brilliant. And I mean, everyone says, "Oh my God, it's just like you," except I haven't murdered anyone, don't intend to murder anyone. But but in terms of, I do smell. My nose is very sensitive, so I can smell people's hair. Sometimes I'll know what shampoo they've used, or if they haven't washed it for 2 weeks, or certain things. I just can't help but do it. I walk down the road in Camden, and if I go to the nail bar or something, I like all the different smells of the exhaust fumes, or the fish and chip shop as you go past, or the fact, when did they last change the oil? I don't know. I start thinking about all sorts of things. It's mind-boggling. But yes, I am actually in the process of co-writing a film, and people have wanting me to do books. It's just having the time and everything to do this. But I think when I do it, it will be unique and different, and something that will come. I mean, all books are. They're all going to be different and all come out of your own story that you have to tell, but that will definitely be something in the pipeline for sure. Definitely will, especially having worked with our directors and actors.
Yeah, I asked just because I think a lot of perfumers say they approach fragrance creation like storytelling, but I feel like a lot of people just say, I'm a storyteller, and it's lost at the power of the meaning. But when you talk about scent, I'm like, you can't not see that's storytelling, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why I call the brand The Perfumer's Story, because I'm always telling a story through scents, people's stories, and whether it's a brand or I do a lot with the hotels and the clubs as well. So, which is a big part of the business now. Having worked with Andre Balazs, who, in America through the Chateau Marmont, he has a Chiltern Firehouse in London, which is like the big hotspot. And we created the fragrance, must have been like, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago now, I can't remember. And, that was a great story that we told together, and it's become quite an iconic scent here, where everyone's just like, oh my God, the smell of the Chiltern. It's, nobody can describe it. It's just that smell. And the same with the main Mayfair, different Annabelle's has got a different smell, but they have different scents, because it looks, it's also the feeling when you enter the place and the space and everything else. And I think, I have a candle range, and to me, it's not only what you smell of what you wear yourself personally, but for me, my home is so important. What it smells like. I'd love you to come here when you come over to London, but when people walk in, they're just like, "Wow, this smell is amazing," because that's my signature home scent. And it's so lovely, because then they'll send me a message after and say, "Oh, I've gone home, and my kids have said, 'Oh, Mum, you smell great,' and I said, 'Oh, it's at Azzi's house.'" But some of the molecules stick on your clothing as you go home, and it's so lovely to have compliments and making sure that your home smells good. It's also a great sense of well-being, especially after the pandemic, where everyone was stuck in the house anyway for such a long time, and my bespoke home business went up quite enormously.
I didn't realize you also did home fragrances, which is something my co-host and I love, love, love. You're our storyteller for home, for person. Azzi, before I let you go, I do this at the end of every podcast interview, a little speed round of 5 questions. So I have 5 just for you if you're up for it.
Oh yeah, go for it, definitely.
Okay, what's the first fragrance you ever fell in love with?
First perfume, you mean, or scent?
However you want to interpret that question.
Okay, can I give you 2? Okay, well, the first perfume I fell in love with.
There's a theme with you. Cindy Crawford, I'm going to give you 2.
Exactly. So they're both first memories, in different ways. So one was when my mother would, back in the 70s, my mother and my father would go to parties, and she'd put on her false eyelashes and her fur coat, and then she'd spray her perfume on. and she wore Je Reviens by Worth, and it was this wonderful scent. She'd kiss me goodbye and leave, and she'd leave this really expensive perfume smell behind, and I'd be like, oh my God, that just smells so rich. Like maybe one day I might even own a bottle of this perfume that you just thought cost £1 million. And one thing I used to do, which was a bit weird actually, but when they used to leave, I used to always tidy up their dressing table, because I just smell all their different aftershaves and perfumes and everything else. And I'd do it my mum's side and then my father's side. So when they'd come back, it'd all look beautiful for them. But that was one of my fondest memories. And I think that, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I like that grown-up scent in a way. And that's, I think, that's one of the reasons why I put that grown-up scent into Agent Provocateur, because I like creating perfumes in my collection, Perfume Story as well, where you walk past, and like I do, there's Fever 54, which you'll also love actually, which is based on Studio 54 with Bianca Jagger. And I actually got Bianca to smell it. She just went, oh my God, so me, I love this. But and it's very sophisticated, very beautiful, and when you walk past, you leave this beautiful veil of expensive, wow, exotic scent behind. And I think I like perfumes to smell expensive and rich, and that's a really important thing for me. I just I'm not into all that kind of the mass smells of a duty-free perfume space that you go to. And then I also really love my other scent, which I mentioned earlier actually, but one of my first memories of scent was when I lived in India. I was born in London, but I went to go and live in India between the ages of 1.5 to 5, which is why I did The Smell of Rain on Earth, because it reminded me of my time in India with the monsoon. And I think that's one of the only natural notes that actually smells the same around the world. So The Smell of Rain on Earth in England reminded me of my time in India, because it was when it's the monsoon. Or if I go to Morocco and it rains there, it reminds me of being in England. It kind of takes me back to all my little places that, even in New York, I've been there when it's rained, and it has that same, that it's the smell of rain on pavements. And it's more rain on pavements in New York because there's not so much greenery unless you're uptown.
Right. So the two scents are, one was your mother's perfume, one's the smell of rain on the ground when it hits. Those are beautiful. Yes. Okay, what's the best smelling food or drink to you?
I really love the smell of freshly made donuts.
That surprised me. I don't know why, but that's a good smell. It's delicious.
It's so delicious. It's so yummy. And they do all these like other donuts nowadays, the Krispy Kremes and everything else. It just doesn't have that same smell, does it? Of a real kind of Jewish sort of, that yeasty, donutty,
doughy
smell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I tell you, there's another one that I've got lots of smells that I really love, but I also really, really love the smell of Play-Doh. Do you remember Play-Doh?
Of course. It's like a salty, I can't even.
It's sweet and salty
at the same time. Oh my God, what kid hasn't tried to eat it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just yummy, and you just kind of get addicted to that note and that smell. And I loved I like smells that are addictive, I think. I have, it's like when you said you smelled sea and you said it was addictive. I love people to just smell it, think, oh my God, I want more and more and more of it. It's exciting.
Yes, like donuts. Okay, What movie character do you wish you had created a perfume for? Like you've watched a movie and said, oh, I could have created that scent for whomever.
I think it has to be Sean Connery as James Bond, because I kind of have...
okay. Would it be Vetiver?
Because it was a Mr. Vetiver that I did afterwards, because it was after Sean Connery had played James Bond. I think Daniel Craig was probably playing him at the time after that. The Mr. Vetiver was literally, because Sean Connery as James Bond, my ideal guy, just so charismatically gorgeous, the grey suit, the Aston Martin, just beautiful. Yeah, I wish I'd created the James Bond, not the commercial perfumes they've got at the moment that say Bond on it, but the original one for him.
No, yes. I've got you. And what's your favorite movie? Such a hard question, I know.
One of my favorite movies, only because I probably watched it so many times and I never get bored of it. And I think also because I love watching it so many times with my children when they were little, is The Sound of Music.
Oh, yeah. My family, we watched that a lot too.
With the Von Trapp family. And
oh my God, I could do all those songs in my sleep.
I know. I used to sing all the songs in the car, taking them to nursery and pretending I was Julie Andrews. But honestly, I've got so many.
Excellent pick.
I love Quentin Tarantino films. I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick, Lynch, Tim Burton. I mean, there's so many films. I'm a filmy person. I love watching films. But I love just, and I've got a kid, so I like watching all of the kids' films as well. Batman and Pirates of the Caribbean, all of them really.
Last question. I think you'll like this one. If there was a movie made of your life, who would narrate it?
Wow. Who would it be? I suppose you kind of think it'd probably be a woman. Yeah. I mean, I think only because I know her and I work with her as an actress and I love her voice is Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah.
I knew that. I knew the answer already. The minute I asked the question, I was like, oh, she's going to say Helena. I knew it. But it's perfect. It's perfect. And I just saw a nature documentary that she voiced, and I didn't even realize it was her. And it was such a good, I love nature documentaries. And then I realized it was her, and I was like, she can do anything, can't she? She's such a chameleon with her craft and her talent.
She's amazing, and she's got that wonderful, distinctive voice and face as well. It's incredible to have that unique quality where, she literally has her own beautiful presence that she gives, whether you see her or if you don't see her.
Yeah, and she would add that to your movie of your life, I'm sure. Thank you for I could talk to you for hours, and I'm sure our listeners could listen for hours, but thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to see you in real life.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
It's your reviews and feedback that help us make the podcast even better. Head over to iTunes to rate and review us, or email your thoughts to info@fatmascara.com.
We also want to answer your beauty questions and hear what products you love. To share a Razor One product review or to ask a beauty question, email us at info@fatmascara.
If you send it as a voice memo file, we can even share your voice on the podcast. You can also do that by leaving us a voice message. Our phone number in the United States is 646-481-8182.
Thanks so much for listening. Hey everyone, hair loss has been in the news lately a lot. I don't need to tell you, but at Fat Mascara, we're talking about it all the time. We've got derms talking about it. We've got listeners writing in. But what if I told you that there was a solution that helps 86% of women with hair loss? Nutrafol.
That's right. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months of using Nutrafol. This is something thousands of women have used to take back control of their hair. There are 2 targeted formulas of Nutrafol, and they are clinically shown. Let's just pause and talk about clinically shown. That means there is science behind them. They are clinically shown to improve hair growth and thickness with less shedding through all stages of life. So hair growth takes time, as you know, that's right, but you will see in 3 to 6 months, thicker, stronger, faster growing hair if you use Nutrafol supplements.
Visit Nutrafol.com and take their hair wellness quiz for personalized product recommendations that are unique to your hair's needs. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code FATMASCARA to save $15 off your first month subscription. And this is their best offer anywhere. It's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, get free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, using the promo code FATMASCARA.
Have you tried finding tickets for any live event lately? It's impossible to keep up, and prices are crazy. That's why you have to check out Gold Star. Gold Star makes it easy to discover the best in live entertainment in your city with instant access to awesome events and special ticket deals. Concerts, live theater, comedy, dance, food fests, immersive experiences. You name it, Gold Star has access to special deals you won't find anywhere else with savings of 50% or more. Go to goldstar.com and use code DCPOD to save $10 on your first purchase. That's goldstar.com, code DCPOD to save $10.